Jeg er fra Norge, og nå er jeg en frivillig soldat som kjemper i Ukraina. So now I just said I'm from Norway, and I'm a volunteer soldier fighting in Ukraine. But I said it in Norwegian.
Greeting to all who stand for freedom. You are watching an interview on Armія TV, and today our guest is Mr. Bucket, a soldier of the International Legion of Defense Intelligence of Ukraine and commander of the Delta Knights team. Bucket, welcome to our studio.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, tell us a bit of your story. As far as I know, you are from Norway, and you've been in Ukraine for quite a while now.
Yes, so I'm from Norway. Before I came here, I was just a civilian working in construction, and I've been following the war since day one. And at the start of 2023, that's when I finally answered my call and decided to come to Ukraine and find a way that I could help Ukraine against the Russian Federation and help towards victory. I wasn't sure if it's going to be military because I didn't have any military background in Norway, but I had a lot of friends who were serving in the Ukrainian army in different kind of branches. So I was in touch with them, and I got a opportunity to join the army, and so I did that, and I've been serving ever since that day.
Listen, how did the transformation from civilian to soldier happen? Well, first of all, it happens inside. You mature toward some kind of decision, and eventually, once you've made it, you move in the direction you've chosen. How did it happen for you?
So, in one way, it was I needed to adapt very fast because now it wasn't a normal military where you only go during training. Now you're expected to go to the front line, pick up weapons and fight. The stress, I would like to say I could handle quite easy because in construction in Norway, you have a lot of stress around you at all time. You have deadlines, time limits, everything. But the hardest part was that I needed to learn everything fast and to get on the same level as the guys I'm fighting with. So the training and everything I needed to know about weapons and different kinds of exercises, what I needed to do, that was the hardest part to adapt to, and I needed to do this in a short amount of time. Luckily, there's in the Legion foreigners from all over the world, and they are very eager to make sure that everybody knows the same and that we're all on the same page. So everybody helps each other out very, very good. So that's the thing that helped me a lot, that even though I came as a civilian, I didn't get treated as a civilian. I got treated as a normal soldier, and where I lacked training, they would then help me to get up to the same standard as everybody else. So in one way, it was a big changeover compared to the civilian life, but it was a good changeover, and I adapted quite fast, I would like to say.
We will talk more about the International Legion a bit later, but I just can't help asking this. You are Norwegian, and Norway is quite far from Ukraine. Of course, it's a country with certain military traditions, but what made you decide to join Ukraine's defense forces?
So, because I didn't have any military background, I didn't exactly know what I was going to do when I came to Ukraine, but I knew that I wanted to help. I had some different kinds of backgrounds from like the Red Cross humanitarian in Norway, helping people who needed more help. So I knew that there would be an opportunity where I could go to assist. It didn't have to be the military, but I had friends here who dragged me towards the military and would like to have me in the military. We knew each other from the very beginning of the war. We got in touch with each other, and they were already down here. So I said, okay, I will come down and give the military a try, because if it doesn't work out, I can still do something else. I can help as a volunteer, do other stuff. So I came down, and after crossing the border into Ukraine, I got met by my friends, and they took me immediately to the military base where they were doing all the training. They gave me the first got to know all the guys on the base, and then we went immediately into training. And at the same day as I crossed the border, I was training with the rest of the guys, preparing to go into combat at the front line. So I had to adapt very, very fast. But everything went very, very well.
You know, it's fair to say that Norwegians aren't really seen as a very militarized nation now. The general perception is that Norway is a peaceful country, up in the north, a bit distant, and not too involved in global conflicts. And yet, here you are. So, how do you see things changing in Norwegian society because of the war in Ukraine? Do you notice any shift, maybe a growing sense of militarization or awareness among people back home?
So, I've followed the war since the start, and I've already known that Ukraine hasn't done anything wrong, and I've seen the slaughter of the civilians and the children, and that was the main reason that I wanted to come, because this wasn't military on military. This was Russia against everyone, and they focused mainly on killing civilians, killing children, and I've seen it all over again after arriving to the country as well, that there's not only military that's being affected by this. So this was my motivation to come. I had a calm, normal life in Norway, but I also know that if I can do a difference, I can come and help, and that can potentially stop them from doing something further into Europe. Then I need to do so instead of just sitting at home saying, oh, I want to help, I wish I could help, because that's not going to change anything. And for the rest of Norway, I would like to say at least 90% is supportive of Ukraine, and they've been supporting Ukraine since day one, and that attitude has never changed, because I have friends, family, people I don't know from Norway who's proud that they have a Norwegian down here who is doing a different, and some of them wish they could do something, but they can't because of their age. They maybe have some sickness that it doesn't let them, or they have a family in Norway, they can't just leave. But they are very, very supportive of Ukraine, and we all wish for a victory. And
all right, let's talk about the time when you arrived in Ukraine. You mentioned that from day one, your training had already begun.
Yes. So I packed all my belongings in Norway that I got suggested to bring with me, that I could bring. I then went to the airport, flew down to Krakow. Then after that, I took a bus to the border, and at the other side of the border, I got met by some of my friends. They just gave me a fast brief and asked if I was tired. And I said, yeah, I'm quite tired now, because I left early in the morning. I then had a 2-hour plane ride, and now 5 hours on the bus. And then said, well, you're going to get a lot more of that tiredness. I was like, okay. We then drive to the base. I meet the commander of I meet our foreign commander of that unit, because we had a foreign commander and a Ukrainian commander. So I meet the foreign commander. He introduces me to everybody else in the unit. He takes me around the base, and after that, he gives me what I need military-wise, from kit, uniforms, equipment, weapon, and then they go through basic weapons handling there and then to make sure that I can handle a weapon in a safe way before we go to the range or we do any training at all. And then a couple hours later, I was on the range shooting a weapon. I had some weapons experience from hunting in Norway, so that it's not the same, but for weapons handling, it could at least help. So that helped out a lot. And then we just kept training and training until we deployed.
Did your fellow soldiers ever ask you, where's your beard? Aren't you a Viking from Norway?
Yeah, they expected, some of them expected me to be a little bit more white and a long beard, but they all said, like, we can see it in your eyes, they're so blue, so you can get that part from Norway, but you're missing the rest of the Viking look. I was like, maybe one day I'll get the beard.
Tell me, how different was your idea of what you were going to see here compared to what you actually saw, from the start of your training to the moment you ended up in real combat?
So, during training and until I actually had my first combat experience, especially I was a little bit more scared, because you see all the missiles hitting everywhere. You have Shaheeds, and I was like, I know I'm far from the front line, but can it actually hit us here? So I took the precautions on every air alert. We ran away because we were on a military base, so we knew that we were a target. And then we kept training. I kept taking all the precautions and rules that we got ordered to do while we were under training and following that. Then when we went to the front line, you could see more and more destructions of houses and civilian infrastructure. And that's when it really changes, and I understood that this was real, because that was my first experience with seeing it in real life compared to seeing it in the news. Because there's one thing seeing it on the news, but there's a totally different when you actually experience it and you get to see it with your own eyes. So that definitely changed my attitude into something more realistic and understanding what was actually going on here.
Знаєш, дуже
You
часто
know,
у людей
people often have an image burnt into their memory, something that stays with them and even haunts them for a while. I remember when we first entered Kharkiv Oblast, right after the counteroffensive, we came into a village that was completely destroyed, not a single house left intact. But right in the middle of the village stood an almost untouched red Coca-Cola fridge. That surreal image stuck with me, and I still remember it clearly. Have you had a moment like that? Something that you saw that left such a mark, it still stays with you?
It was definitely after we finished our training, where we had our first stop before we went into combat. And I think it's one of the moments that I will remember for the rest of my life. Was we were driving, we were all getting tired. We've been driving for a lot of hours. We just finished training, packing, organizing everything we need to do, last minute checks. And as we keep driving, we see children maybe between 6 and 10 years old standing lined up next to the road, saluting all of us. That was something that hit very, very different, and that I will always remember, because they shouldn't be doing that. You can say it's cool, but they shouldn't need to experience this at all. But that was a cool moment that I will always remember with me.
I
agree with you. It's hard to imagine that in the 21st century, children are witnessing the consequences of an adult war and growing up in the middle of it. Let's talk about the International Legion. It's a highly professional unit, but tell me, what kind of training did you receive during those initial trainings before deploying to the combat zone?
So before moving to the front line, we had all the training we needed and that we would need in the field. Everything from weapons handling to medical to how to build defensive position, how to maneuver around the enemy, how to attack the enemy. You have all the training you need, and we have that from very professional instructors who all have combat experience, so they know how it is at the front line. So it's not any random instructor who never seen combat before. This is a highly professional instructor who's seen combat. He's been fighting in the war in Ukraine, so he is teaching us his knowledge. And when we then mix that together with knowledge from, for example, America or Britain or Norway, you can make something really good around it, and you make very good training and very good knowledge that you share with each other. So we get very, very good training before we head into combat, and it's made sure that everybody's ready to go into combat, at least training-wise.
Let's talk about your first combat experience. A first battle is something you never forget. It stays with you forever. What was that like for you? And the second question, before a person goes into combat, they usually have some image of themselves, a mental picture of who they think they are. But once you are actually in fight, all the illusions fall away, and you really see who you are. So, after that first battle, how did you see yourself? Were you satisfied with who you turned out to be?
So, my first reality check with combat and understanding how a war was, that was us being tasked to attack and take back a enemy position. And we got briefed very good on what to do, how to do it. And I was scared. I said, I'm not ready to do this. But I had my commander at that time who was very, very supportive. He's seen me during training. We became very close friends, so he helped me a lot out. And then as closer we got to the mission, the more scary it got until reality actually hit. We got on the ground. We were supposed to reach a certain element and hold it there to then bring in other units who can go forward so we could change the flood backwards. We can take back what's been lost. And after we infilled, we walked for maybe 2-3 kilometers, and then we got ready before the last step off, before we were assaulting towards the position. And after the step off, not even 2 minutes later, hell broke loose. We had machine guns opening up, and I was ready. I was pretty sure I was gonna die. There was no way I was getting out of this alive. But somehow we were able to do most of our tasks at that mission, and we made it out. But that was scary. That was very, very scary, because it was the first time I've ever been shot at, and that was. It's hard to explain. You have to experience it, because you can try to explain how it is, but unless you experienced it, you'll never understand how it actually is out there. Because
sorry to interrupt, but I want to pull out one specific moment. I've watched some of your previous interviews, and in one of them you mentioned a situation where your commander was almost physically pushing you forward, yelling, "Move, move!"
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that moment?
Yeah, so we were advancing forward. We had a group in front of us, and they got into contact first, and we lost visual on them. We were now in a prone, trying to get understanding of the situation, and I was the point man of our group, and he yells, "Bucket, you need to crawl forward." And I turned around and I said, "Fuck no, I'm not crawling, I'm not gonna die." And he kept yelling, "You need to move, if not I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna slap you." So I started crawled maybe 3 meters. I get visual on our guys who's 50 meters in front of us, and in the middle of us we can see 2 Russians, and he's just like, "What can you see?" I was like, I can see our groups, I can see the Russians." He's like, "Yeah, we'll shoot." I was like, I don't really want to move, because I was still scared, but somehow his support and his words convinced me to change my brain back into reality and actually do my job. So now we got rid of the threat that was in between us, and we can get visual on our guys in front of us, and we can actually get back into work. But that was hard. We had a long argument after that, but it was fun how it all went out in one way, and how he changed my mind to actually do my job, crawl forward and make everything as we should.
So, here is the second part of that question. Were you actually satisfied with yourself after that first battle? And that image that you had of yourself, did it hold up? Did you come out of that thinking, "Yes, this is who I am"? Or was it more like, "Damn, I still got a long way to go before I become the person I imagined"?
So, before I actually came, I understood that I can do the training, because training is just training. There's no risk. But I was very unsure if I was actually going to last in combat, because I've heard of people with a lot of experience who goes to the front line in Ukraine, and it's not for them. It's not what they imagined. So I tried to not imagine too much, because I didn't know how I was going to be here, and I've never been in the military. So in one way, I imagined that, okay, I'm going to go see the combat, and it's going to be too scary. I'm going to do some dangerous mistakes that's going to be bad for the rest of the team, so it's not going to be for me. Or it's just too scary. I break contract, I go home. But after that mission, I found out that this was actually something I could do. I needed that push to get over the hill, and after that, everything went very well. And missions after, you always have to adapt, because every front line you go to is different. Nothing is the same at all. So you need to adapt all the time. And one of the things I've learned the most about this is, and that's overall seeing the war in Ukraine, is if I have a bad day back in Norway and I complain like, "Oh, my salary isn't enough, I didn't get to eat the food I wanted to get, today I have to wake up at 6 to go do my job." it's nothing compared to reality in Ukraine. So I definitely learned that when I thought I had a bad life or a bad day in Norway, it's a lot worse down there, because here you actually have reality, and they have people lose their families, their relatives, you lose friends, they lose their houses. I had a comfortable place to live. I had food on the table. I had a work to go to every day. But still, I thought that I had bad days now and then, but that mindset has totally turned around after seeing reality here and seeing how the Ukrainians cope with everything, because you can have a person who loses his best friend or he loses his house, but he'll still smile and do the best out of it. His house can be burning and he'll still offer you borscht or something to drink, and he'll do the best. It's the Ukrainian mindset is a little bit crazy in a good way. You cope with a lot of stuff in a good way, so I'm not going to complain about my life ever again in Norway.
That's cool. And we will definitely come back to that moment when you pushed through those barriers during your first battle. But since we are already talking about tough days, what would you say was your worst day here?
The worst day, I guess, we had a mission where that didn't go as we hoped or as we planned, and we lost a couple of very, very good guys. That was definitely the worst day. The best day, it's hard to point out which one's the best, but it's every day that goes well is a good day. Every day that goes bad, it's a bad day. But it's hard to say which one's the best. That's very hard to point out.
Let's talk about that moment of breaking through, because now you are a team leader, and I imagine you might already have some kind of recipe for handling it, and that could really help some of our viewers who might go through something of the kind. I mean that first wave of stress in combat, or the post-stress reaction. You said there was a moment when you realized, I can actually do this. Was there something that helped you to reach that point? Maybe a mental trick, a mindset you developed. And do you now tell your new guys, the recruits who join your team, something like, listen, it's going to feel like this, and then like this, but you will get through it?
I think the thing that helps me the most was my commander believed in me, and he was very supportive. He helped me a lot with training, preparation, but also that you're not just a group of team, you're like a big family. You all help each other out, and then make sure everybody's ready. If somebody's a little bit more worried, just make sure to motivate them, believe in them that they can do the right thing, because now I had guys believing in me, and now I needed to prove them that they're actually right and I can do this. And I think also the one thing that helped me a lot was not to imagine too much. Don't think that you're going to be the best soldier. Don't think that you're going to be the worst soldier. Just don't go with too high expectations, because when you go out there, there is hell. Hell is what you're walking into, and sometimes it can be worse than hell, so don't expect too much. But make sure to trust the guys around you, and that you all support each other is the main key. And then when it comes to actually going into combat, it's more into, of course, it has something to do with your training, but at the end of the day, it's about your head, if you can actually handle it or not. It doesn't matter if you have the best training in the world or if you have no training. I came with no training. I made it possible to be here to keep fighting. And you have people with training who figures out that it's actually not for them. They try, but it doesn't work out. So it can be all kinds of different scenarios, but at the end of the day, I believe it's more in your head if you're able to do this, and if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Brother, tell us a bit about the International Legion. Let's start here. You know, people who have never encountered the Legion or its work might assume it's an elite unit that doesn't really get pushed too hard. Like, oh, they are foreigners, better not overuse them. Maybe just give them easier tasks, keep them safe. But we both know that it's not how it is. So let's hear it straight from you. What kind of missions does your unit actually carry out, and how tough are they?
So the Legion is built out of foreigners from all over the world. It's from from everywhere with all kinds of backgrounds. It can be civilians like me. It can be people with military experience. It's more people with military experience. If you see anybody with civilian life, they most likely prove themselves either past our training cyclists and our selection parts, or they have prior combat experience in Ukraine, so they are worth taking to our unit. So it's built up. We have different kinds of teams, like I'm the team leader of the Delta Knights team, and you have other group teams. It can be foreigners in those teams, but we also have Ukrainians in our unit who speaks English, wants to work with foreigners. We have Ukrainian commanders who gives us the orders on what to do. And for the operations, we'll get a task to go, okay, now you're going to go to Kharkiv, or you go to Donbass, you go to Zaporizhzhia, it doesn't matter. You go there, and then you're tasked to do what you're tasked to do, either if it is to try to take back any positions, or if you're there to support the line from getting pushed back. We are doing simply just what we're tasked to do, and we try to do it as good as we can with what we have. But there's no specific role. We have specific teams for specific roles. So you'll have a reconnaissance team, you'll have medical team, you'll have drone team, heavy weapons teams, and you'll have assaulting teams, and all different teams. But at the end of the day, if you're told to sit in a trench, to be infantry, hold the trench, everybody will do that. Maybe now the drone team needs to go out and sit in a trench to help hold the trench, and they will do that just as good as everybody else, because it is what we're tasked to do, and it's what we've ordered to do, and we all will do that as good as we can with what we have.
Which Ukrainian unit impressed you the most? I mean, among those you've had a chance to work alongside. Maybe you saw someone in action and thought, these guys are beasts, that's a badass unit.
Yeah, there's definitely some of those units that I really like to see doing their work, and they do cool stuff. So we've been working with all kinds of different units because we've been to a lot of different front lines. There's definitely different units doing different kinds of good job that's very cool to watch. You have, like, for example, Azov 3rd Assault Brigade. Now Azov has opened a international part of it, so they have their own legion. I have a couple of friends over there. I know they're good, doing good job, and it's very cool when I can see their videos. You have, for example, Kraken, who's from Kharkiv. I have a couple of friends in Kraken, and I really, really appreciate and see the job they do, because they do some cool stuff sometimes. And then you have the smaller, like, SSO units. They do a lot of cool stuff that you see. So it's definitely different units that do very, very cool job.
You know, continuing along that line of thought, I just have to ask you about one thing. I'm sure you've come across Ukrainian infantry, and I mean that kind of people who usually don't show up in the media. Often it's an older guy, maybe over 50, who's been holding a position for a long time, just doing his job with quite determination. It might be a month, maybe even longer, especially in winter. And as you know yourself, Ukrainian winters, autumns, and early spring mean mud and brutal conditions. We often call this kind of person Mykola, a symbolic figure who holds the line no matter what. Maybe he doesn't have specialized skills of some elite units, but the sheer resilience, that's exactly what keeps our front line from collapsing the way the enemy wants. I'm sure you've met guys like this. What kind of impression do they leave on you?
So that's something we see over and over again. We go to friendly positions and you'll meet Ukrainian soldiers. They're usually a little bit older, and they can have been there for months because their rotation system, maybe they don't have enough people for it. Or, yeah, I think the main reason for the rotation system is that they're now lacking a lot of people because they've been there for a while, so they have to be there longer. when I see them, when I talk to them, if I can talk to them because of the language, but usually we find a way of communicating. I have a lot of respect for them because they've been sitting there for weeks, for months, and they still try to do the best out of the situation. And most importantly, they still do their job. They don't give up. And even though they are tired, they want to go back, see their family, have a shower, just go back to getting some rest, simple as a normal bed. They still do the best out of the situation that they have been given and that they are in now. So I have a lot of respect for infantry, because infantry is a hard job, and especially when you see units who have soldiers who's been in a position for months, because we are lucky. So we have if I'm told to hold a position, we'll be there for 1 week, 2 weeks maybe, and then we rotate each other within either my team or we have other teams that will rotate us because we're capable of doing it. We have the manpower, and it's how we work. We work the Legion with the Legion. Maybe our unit works with another part of the Legion and we rotate each other. But we can do that and we have a good schedule, but not everybody is capable of doing that because maybe they, as I said, have too many wounded. They don't have enough people. So now they are stuck in their position for months, but they will still smile when you come into position. They'll still share some coffee with you, even though it's the last drop of coffee that was going to last them for another 2 weeks. Now it lasted them 2 days. They will still share everything with us, and most of them are still motivated and ready to do their job. So I have a lot of respect for them.
Слухай,
At the beginning of the full-scale invasion, and you've already touched on this, a lot of foreigners wanted to join Ukraine's defense forces. But what I saw later was that many of them ended up going back home pretty quickly. And I'm talking about people from different countries. They would just say, no, this isn't for me, this isn't what I imagined, I can't handle this. Others found themselves in situations that kept getting harder and harder, with the fighting growing more intense, and eventually they just couldn't cope. So my question is, how does it look now? Is the turnover rate still the same, or are people now coming with more awareness of what they are getting into and staying longer? Tell us a bit about that.
So it's definitely been like that, especially towards the start of the war, people coming and going a lot because they understand that this isn't what they expected. They came with too high expectation. It's more dangerous out there. They understand that they can actually be killed, they can be wounded, and they understand that it's actually not for them. One of the things that did this possible back in the days is that we didn't have a rule. So you could sign a contract, go on a mission, go on training, and the next day you could break contract. We don't have it as the Ukrainians, as if we sign a contract, you have to stay on that contract. But now they are more strictly on people. First of all, on people they accept to their unit, but also we have a rule that you have to serve for a certain amount of time before you're allowed to break that contract. And that's a overall rule with all the legions in Ukraine, I believe. And that makes some people think twice before they actually sign that contract and actually sign up to come to Ukraine. Because now it's not, you can't just come and check if it's for you. Now you have to make sure, because when you sign that contract, you have to stay that full contract. You can't just go. So you have to be really sure. So the stream of people coming and going, that has definitely shortened down, and the people coming now are more serious, and it's either new people coming to the country who knows they're committed and they know the risks, or it's potentially people who were here at the start of the war who's taken a break, but now they're back again. And they understand the contract, they understand the risks, because every day gets more and more dangerous. It's nothing to hide on it, because it's a dangerous war. It's like nothing before. And I think a lot of people don't understand that before they're actually in the shit themselves. That's when they understand how dangerous it is. And now, in one way, you need to make sure of that before you come, because as soon as you sign up, you have to follow that contract. And I believe that's a very good thing, because then you get rid of the people who just want to come do a mission and then go again. People who just want to go and fight to get their middle combat experience and leave again. Now you have committed people ready to do their job. Worst case scenario, sacrifice their life for Ukraine. They're ready and committed to do that. So that has definitely changed a lot since the start of the war compared to now.
And what about now? Are there still a lot of people coming to join?
There is still, yeah. I would definitely still say it's a lot of people coming, but it now compared to back in the days, most people only came to the Legion, but now they're spread widely because now it's more and more Ukrainian units who accept foreigners as well. So now they go everywhere. It's not you go to the Legion. Now you can go to the 25th Assault Brigade. You have Azov, 3rd Assault, Kartia, Kraken, everybody, and more everybody accepts foreigner now. So the steam of people coming into the country, I would say, is still very high on people coming to support.
Знаєш, ти міг би, знаєш, в фільмах часто
You know how in movies, when they introduce the characters in that kind of ironic style, like if they are showing a team, say in Ocean's 12, they always describe each one in a sort of playful way. Could you do something like that for your Delta Knights team? Like, tell us who is who. Maybe this guy's the Joker, that's a bit of a maniac. Just a quick profile of your guys.
We have all kinds of different guys. We have a guy who loves to go to the gym, and you'll have another guy who loves to lay in his bed and listen to techno all day long. You have people who loves to play video games. You have guys who loves to do military training because this is what they've done and known the whole life. He's been trained in military in his own country, and now he gets to test his skills in his actual job. But behind the war, we're just normal people with our own hobbies. Like when I was back in Norway, my hobbies was cars. I like to drive around in cars. I like to do different kinds of stuff, fix them, work on them, drive them. And we have the exact same. We have people who love books, love music, love to go for walks, loves to go to the gym. And it's all a big mix. And behind the war, we're normal people with normal hobbies. We're not as crazy as it might look now and then because we go and volunteer to a war. Some people say we're crazy, but we're just normal people here to help and do our job.
But I guess there has to be at least a bit of craziness in all this, right?
There's definitely a piece of craziness. There definitely is, especially now I've been here for a long time. And I would consider myself a little bit crazy to keep going because it's getting more and more crazy out there, especially with the drones. The drones are hell. They can touch you everywhere. So it's definitely a little bit of craziness, but a lot of commitment as well. Because I've said I'm here long term. I'm not going to give up, go back home because the guys in position, the Ukrainians in position, they can't just give up. So why should I? I'm committed to help, so I'm going to stay. And I know a lot of guys feels the same, that we cannot just abandon not only the soldiers in the position, but the friendships we made in this country, because you meet a lot of good people that you build a connection with, and we can't just leave them behind. So we're committed to stay true. It's a mix of craziness and commitment.
When you've been at war for a long time, you start to notice certain trends, like with drones. When they first appeared, there were people who had already been on the battlefield long enough to recognize the pattern, and they said, this is the future. And then, fiber optics started showing up, then UGVs, unmanned ground vehicles, the kind of stuff that moves around on land. And there is an idea that this area is going to see a lot of development. Do you see any particular trend in how things will evolve? Where do you think it's all heading? Will it really be a robot war, for example? I don't want to lean into the cliche of a robot war, maybe you've got your own picture of it. So I won't impose anything, I'll just leave it to you. How do you see it?
So unfortunately, it has changed a lot. So back when I first had my combat experience and the whole of 2023, we were scared of drones because we've heard of them, and everything we experienced was usually just recon drones. And then you got into 2024, and that was when we had a big reality check, when we actually saw a certain amount of FPVs, but they weren't really targeting infantry. Back in that day, it was more into armored vehicles, taking out that. And then now it's getting crazy, crazy worse, because now you have them targeting everything. And especially for myself, because I'm an infantryman. I like infantry. It's what I do. I have to take a lot of precaution on the duties we do, and we need to have good plans at all times, because the drones are getting worse. Now they have drones that can hit you kilometers behind the front line. They have drones that can fly day and night, so you're never safe. But it doesn't mean that we're going to go into a drone war or a robot war, because the thing we need to do is just find ways to work around it. It's going to be more risky, of course, but we can't just give up. We just need to try to develop something who can block the drones, take them out, and keep doing what we can. You'll have front lines where it's only drones hitting drone position. There's rarely any infantry in the middle. They'll destroy the position until we fall back. We destroy their position until they fall back. And we just need to find solutions to work around it, because there is definitely something that can be made or developed. If they're able to make the drones this good, there's definitely something that can be made to go against the drones, to make the smile of an infantryman come back again, so he can do his job proper.
Sounds great. To give the infantry their smile back. Love it. You've been in Ukraine for 2 years now. What do you enjoy here? I mean, in terms of everyday life. Do you see yourself staying here in the future after the war? Would you consider living in Ukraine?
It's very, very... I really like Ukraine. I like the friends I've made here. I have good connections. I'm here until victory, and after victory, I've considered that I can pick up on construction again, because it's going to be a lot of rebuilding that's going to need to be done, because it's a lot of destruction everywhere, especially as soon as you go closer to the front line, because you can see some of it around in Kyiv when you see the Shahid and missile attacks, and that's going to take rebuilding. But also, as closer you get to the front line, you'll see how crazy it is. And as soon as we see victory, it's going to be a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done. And I'm definitely able to help in a good way. Maybe even find a small piece and build a little mini Norway. Just have a mini Norway somewhere in Ukraine. It's going to be perfect, full of Vikings.
You know, there's been a lot of discussion lately about Ukraine's path of joining the European Union. Of course, that's mostly a political issue, but from time to time, a similar debate pops up inside Ukrainian society, whether Ukrainians are European enough to truly belong to the EU. Personally, I think that's more of a political narrative than the real issue. But in your opinion, is there actually a big difference between a typical European and the Ukrainian? Or is this whole idea that Ukrainians need to become more European just made up?
So this is in one way like a little bit towards politics, and I don't really like politics. I just do my job. And then politics is for the politicians. But no, Ukrainians are definitely a part of Europe, and there's no big difference compared to a Ukrainian and a person in Norway, for example. There's different kinds of stuff on how the country runs, but personality and person-wise, it's a lot of similar things. So I would definitely consider Ukraine a part of Europe. And it should be like that as well. It should be, because you are a part of Europe. We can say it in that way. The politics can be the politics, but among each other, we can just accept that it's a part of Europe, simply.
I like that. Can you say something in Norwegian? But not just hello, maybe a phrase. Would be nice to hear how it sounds.
Jeg er fra Norge, og nå er jeg en frivillig soldat som kjemper i Ukraina. So now I just said I'm from Norway and I'm a volunteer soldier fighting in Ukraine. But I said it in Norwegian. So, very different language from English and Ukrainian, but it's cool.
Мені сподобалось.
I like that. Bucket, thank you for this interview. I really enjoyed it. It was great.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to add? Maybe something important that we haven't touched on?
Keep fighting and then we'll see victory together. That's the most important.
Клас.
Great. Keep fighting and then we will see the victory together.
Bucket,
a fighter of the International Legion, commander of the Delta Night team, in the interview on Army TV.